The sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of Brixton High School's cafeteria, glinting off polished floors and stainless steel counters. The air buzzed with laughter, gossip, and the unmistakable cruelty that often hides in teenage smiles. At the far end of the room sat a girl in a white floral dress with her hair neatly tied in a braid. Aria Winton, the daughter of one of the city's most powerful CEOs. But unlike most daughters of wealth, she sat alone, quietly eating from a paper lunch bag. A jagged scar ran down the right side of her face, from her temple to her cheek, a mark left from a car accident 2 years earlier. That scar, though healed, was all people seemed to see. To them, she wasn't the daughter of Victor Winton, the steel magnate. She wasn't the top student in literature or the kind soul who volunteered at the shelter. She was just the scarred girl. It was during lunch that the whispers started again, cruel giggles that slithered like snakes across the room. "Cover that up next time, Aria," one girl muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Or at least don't sit where people have to look at it." A group of boys snickered. One of them took out his phone, pretending to take a selfie but angling it toward her. "Smile, Aria!" "Oh, wait, maybe don't." The laughter exploded around her like fireworks of humiliation. Aria froze. The fork trembled in her hand. Her throat burned, her heart raced, but she didn't move. She had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse, so she simply lowered her eyes and let the laughter wash over her like cold rain. Just then, a voice from the serving counter cut through the noise. "Hey, that's enough!" It was Noah Pierce, the new part-time waiter who had been serving at the cafeteria for just 2 weeks. He was in his early 30s, tall but lean, with rolled-up sleeves and tired eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. He was a single dad, raising his 8-year-old daughter Lily after his wife passed away. 3 years ago, Noah worked 2 jobs, mornings at Brixton's cafeteria, nights at a small diner downtown, just to keep the lights on. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Let's keep stories like this alive, stories that remind the world that compassion still matters. When the cafeteria fell silent under his voice, Noah set the tray he was holding down and walked toward Aria's table. The room buzzed with murmurs. "Is he seriously going over there?" one student whispered, but Noah didn't care. He saw the tears trembling in Aria's eyes, tears she tried so hard to hide. He knelt slightly so he was at her eye level, speaking softly but clearly enough for the others to hear. "Don't let them decide your worth," he said. "Scars mean you survived something that tried to break you. That's strength, not shame." Then, before anyone could stop him, he reached out and gently took her hand, the hand that was shaking slightly on the table. The cafeteria gasped. Aria looked up startled. For the first time, someone hadn't looked away. He wasn't pitying her. He was seeing her. In that moment, the cruel laughter faded into a stunned, uncomfortable silence. Noah smiled kindly, squeezing her hand lightly. "Hold your head high, kiddo. The world doesn't get to tell you what beauty looks like." Then he stood and walked back to the counter, resuming his work as though nothing had happened. But something had changed, something powerful. For the rest of that lunch hour, no one dared to say another word to Aria. She finished her meal quietly, her cheeks flushed, but her heart lighter. That night, when she went home to the sprawling mansion where silence echoed through every hallway, she replayed his words again and again. Her father, Victor Winton, noticed something different when she walked in. Her steps had more steadiness, her shoulders less slump. But he didn't ask. He was always too busy for words that mattered. The next morning, Aria walked into school with her hair tucked behind her ear, not hiding the scar anymore. Some students still stared, but others, the quieter ones, the ones who had also felt invisible, smiled at her in quiet respect. Days passed, and the cafeteria incident became whispered legend. Some called Noah foolish, others heroic, but he didn't care about either. He just kept doing his job, wiping tables, refilling trays, and heading home to his daughter Lily, who would wait for him every afternoon with crayons and drawings of hearts and suns. One rainy Friday, Arya stayed late after school to work on an art project. When she came to the cafeteria to grab a snack, she saw Noah cleaning up alone. The storm outside rattled the windows. "Mr. Pierce?" she said softly. He looked up and smiled, the same warm, tired smile. "Hey there, Arya. Working late?" She nodded, fiddling with her bag strap. "I just wanted to say thank you for that day." Her voice wavered. "You didn't have to stand up for me." Noah set down the mop and leaned against the counter. "You're right," he said with a half smile. "But kindness isn't about what we have to do. It's about what we should do when we see something wrong." He looked at her with a father's kind of warmth. "My daughter's your age. If someone ever treated her like that, I'd hope someone would speak up too." That conversation planted something new in Arya: courage. Over the next few weeks, she started volunteering at the school's mentoring program, helping younger students who were struggling with self-esteem. She used her own story, the accident, the scar, the mockery, to show them that broken things can still be beautiful. Slowly, the label of the scarred girl began to fade. People started calling her the girl who helps, but the real turning point came during the annual charity gala organized by her father's company. Brixton High had been invited to perform a musical presentation, and Arya was chosen to give a short speech about resilience. She almost refused. Public speaking terrified her. But then she remembered Noah's words, "Hold your head high." The night of the gala shimmered with chandeliers and expensive suits. Victor Winton stood beside his daughter proudly, though part of him still worried about how people would judge her appearance. But when Arya stepped onto the stage in her simple pale blue gown, the room went still. The scar on her cheek glowed softly under the light, but this time it didn't look like a flaw. It looked like a mark of survival. She began speaking, her voice steady, gentle, but strong. She spoke about the day she almost gave up, the day someone reminded her that scars tell stories, not shame. She spoke about kindness, about how a stranger's small act of courage can rewrite someone's life. As she finished, the audience rose to their feet. But one man in the back, wearing a simple waiter's uniform, clapped the hardest. Noah Pierce had been hired to serve at the gala that night. Their eyes met across the grand hall, and Arya smiled through tears. She stepped down from the stage, walked straight to him, and in front of everyone, she took his hand again, just like he had taken hers that day in the cafeteria. The flash of cameras filled the room, but neither of them noticed. In that moment, the world was silent again. Just a girl and the man who reminded her that kindness is never small. Later that night, Victor Winton approached Noah privately. His expression, usually cold and unreadable, softened. "I owe you something I can never repay," he said quietly. "You did for my daughter what all the money in the world couldn't. You made her believe in herself again." He offered him a position managing the new Winton Foundation cafeteria program, with full benefits and a flexible schedule so he could spend more time with Lily. Noah hesitated, stunned. "Sir, I take it," Victor interrupted, his tone firm but sincere. "It's not charity. It's what good men deserve." Months later, the story of the scarred CEO's daughter and the waiter who took her hand spread across the internet, turning into a symbol of compassion that broke millions of hearts open. Arya went on to study psychology, starting an outreach program for children with facial differences. Noah continued his work at the foundation, often seen at her events with Lily by his side, now best friends with Arya's little mentees. Sometimes, when reporters asked Arya what changed her life, she would smile softly and say, "A man who refused to look away." If this story touched your heart, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every engagement helps us share more stories that remind the world that love, courage, and compassion still exist. And, before you go, comment below, kindness still wins. Because sometimes, One hand held in courage can heal what the world tried to break.